understand, they talk to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 6 of RKO. You didn't know this is a pro wrestling podcast where we talk about WWE and all things related. I'm Kayvon here with Russell. Russell, say hi to our fans out there.
How's it going?
Hey, Russell, just a couple weeks ago was Night of Champions, WWE's last pay-per-view event. I attended the event live. Russell, you watched at home on the WWE Network. The first thing I got to talk about for Night of Champions was the finish to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. Brock Lesnar, the champ, defending against John Cena. Seth Rollins came into the match. At the end of the match, John Cena seemingly was about to win the match and regain the title. Seth Rollins nails him with the Money in the Bank briefcase, causes a disqualification. John Cena won the match via disqualification, however, still your champ, Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins took out John Cena, curb-stomped Brock Lesnar, and was about to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Justin Roberts, the announcer, even announced that Seth Rollins was cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase on Brock Lesnar for his WWE World Heavyweight Championship match that he earned this past summer at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. John Cena, before the bell rang, spoiled Seth Rollins' cash-in. It was never cashed in. The title match never happened. And you got the disqualification in your main event at Night of Champions. Russell, besides the excitement of Seth Rollins about to cash in his Money in the Bank, what are your thoughts on the way the main event at Night of Champions, how it went about? I know you kind of called it this way on our last podcast, that you would kind of get a flubbed finish like we did. What are your thoughts, Russell?
Well, like you said, if you listen to the podcast from a couple weeks ago, it was called by me, that you would get that type of finish, a no contest or a disqualification. We were hoping for the heel turn, didn't get that. What we did get was John Cena basically being screwed over by the Authority and not being able to beat the Beast. He ends up winning the contest, but no strap for him. I don't know how it played live, but on television, you kind of got that feeling that something was going to happen towards the end. The pay-per-view was going almost to the end of the night, 11 o'clock, so you were looking for something to happen. And sure enough, comes down with the Money in the Bank, and the rest is history. The crowd, however, seemed on television that they were going nuts, but this is what they were wanting, especially when not only did, he take out John Cena, but then he turned and gave Brock Lesnar the big curb
stomp, which
was I went crazy myself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, we're going to have an edge moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And just to comment on the live crowd, whether the Money in the Bank briefcase contract holder is a heel or face, I mean, I think as a live attendant, you always want that Money in the Bank briefcase to be cashed in while you're there. I mean, that's just an exciting moment. And I thought we were going to get it. I mean, I was jumping out of my seat, and, it was interesting. Something else I kind of want to ask you about that match is I kind of heard rumblings on the internet of, does he look like he fits in that main event picture? I mean, we kind of saw for the first time with Brock Lesnar in the ring, Cena and Rollins all together. Does he feel like a main eventer to you yet, Russell?
Well, I mean, when you look at the three guys in the ring together, obviously, you know, the stature of Brock Lesnar and John Cena, you know, these two guys are, you know, basically muscle-bound beasts. And you look at Seth Rollins, and he has more of a build of a Randy Orton. I was kind of looking at it on Monday night when Randy Orton and him were side by side, and he's about as tall as Randy Orton, and has got the same build. So as far as being able to pull it off as a champion, you know, he does. You know, he's not a small guy. You know, he's not a cruiserweight. So basically, you know, for him to be a main eventer, I mean, you know, he can rank up there. One of the things that I thought was really exciting was he not just went after John Cena, but he went after Brock Lesnar. So, you know, it kind of was intriguing. You know, is he a heel? Is he a good guy? You know, or is he just playing straight down the middle? You know, he could take it or leave it either side. And I liked how he you know, was playing on his own. I could see him being a main eventer. We've talked about this. Is he ready? You know, my feeling is, was Edge ready? There's got to be a time that the WWE has got to pull the trigger on these guys and allow them to take the ball and run with it. And if they fail, they fail. They can still rely on John Cena or Brock Lesnar or Triple H or, you know, or someone else. But they're never going to find out what they've got unless they give these guys the opportunity. Now, with that being said, the disappointment of the night was probably, you know, with Roman Reigns not being on the pay-per-view. And of course, he had surgery. For those who had been following, he had to have emergency surgery. So that match we didn't get. And he's going to be out 2 to 3 months, from what I hear. Now, what do you do with, you know, the absence of him? Well, you got to bring somebody back in, and they brought in Dean Ambrose. So, you know, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, both these guys have proven that they can carry the ball because they've beaten Evolution, they've beaten Triple H, they've beaten Randy Orton, they destroyed The Undertaker a couple months ago when they were the Shield. So they've taken out big names. So allow these guys to, you know, to have a chance. You know, that's my feeling. You know, I guess we'll never know as far as can they compete with a John Cena or Brock Lesnar if they're not given the opportunity. Whoever thought Daniel Bryan would be able to compete with John Cena, you know, and Triple H? You don't know until you give them a chance and see how the crowd reacts. And if you go by the pay-per-view, the reaction that the crowd, at least what I've seen on TV, the crowd was, they were into it. They were like, oh, yes, we're going to get a cash-in now. Was it because of the cash-in and they're there, or was it, or they're behind him? You know, you don't know.
Well, I think it was the cash-in, like I said. But, you know, until you put the strap on him, if you're going to, and see if he can hold his own, you're right, you'll never know. As far as the Roman Reigns deal goes, when the news first broke, I think it was early Saturday, the day before the pay-per-view, that happened, I contacted you, and I told you about it, and I definitely, at that moment, because I had been hearing that Dean Ambrose was, he was filming a movie, which is why he was gone for like the last month after Seth Rollins did the curb stomp through the cement bricks to Dean Ambrose. But I heard he was coming back soon. So to me, it was kind of a no-brainer that Roman's gone, so you bring in Ambrose to the pay-per-view and, you know, start utilizing him in the place of Roman, which is exactly what happened, like you said. For me, I mean, I think Roman Reigns is fantastic. I mean, that guy has so much potential. His look, you know, the crowd just loves him. But for me, the guy with, at least out of the Shield guys, with the most depth is Dean Ambrose. I mean, that guy has to be my favorite full-time wrestler that they have at the moment. And so I was really pleased to see him at Night of Champions. The crowd popped huge for him. I think it was a great moment for Ambrose, and I think, before we continue talking about Night of Champions, this is an interesting point. This is a good moment to talk about this. Since Night of Champions, the past 2 weeks on Raw, we haven't seen Brock Lesnar. Now, we saw Paul Heyman last night on Raw, but we haven't seen the champ, and there hasn't really been any talk about who's going to challenge Brock for the title next. I thought it was going to be Cena at Hell in a Cell and a Hell in a Cell match, but, and we still have till the end of October till Hell in a Cell. However, no talk of that so far. So we're kind of in this weird moment where you have Ambrose and Rollins and Cena, because Cena and Ambrose are both gunning for Rollins because of what Rollins took out Ambrose with the curb stomp through the cement bricks, and Rollins cost Cena his championship match at Night of Champions. So what do you think, Russell? Do we get a triple threat at Hell in a Cell for maybe the Money in the Bank briefcase?
Well, from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I'm hearing, the Brock Lesnar being at Hell in a Cell is still up in the air, from last I heard. So, from now until then, if they decide to go with the triple threat, they could do that. Speaking of Paul Heyman, I was kind of disappointed the night after Night of Champions. There was no Paul Heyman, no Brock Lesnar. There was no mention at all about, why Seth Rollins came down and did what he did until this week. Last night, Monday night, we get the storyline basically like we had talked about, where Paul
Seth
Heyman
Rollins acted on his own.
Yeah, and said, did the authority do this? Was it the authority that granted this? What's going on? And that's kind of like me and you had talked, that since this was that happened out of nowhere, was it the authority that ordered basically the hit, or was it Seth Rollins on his own? And he said, hey, it was on my own. I'm the one that decided to do it. You should, Brock Lesnar should feel grateful that I came out and did this. He should feel honored that I wanted to go against the best. If you notice, the crowd kind of was for Paul Heyman when he came out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I did like that moment. I think Raw was really good last night. Something that disappointed me, and I talked it over with another friend of mine. I have to give him a shout-out, Mr. Sean the Girth.
Hey, Sean.
He told me that the first thing they always do when you get a new face is they stick John Cena with him. And it's like, okay, Dean Ambrose comes back, he's in the ring doing his promo, and John Cena comes out and kind of steals the limelight and says, I'm mad too, I want a piece of him now. And in fact, last Monday night, where Seth Rollins came out, John Cena still had the mic, and he's like, you need to come down here. Oh, well, we'll just come after you. And he kind of took over the segment. And to me, it was like, why do you have to put John Cena with a guy who's already established? They did it with Roman Reigns. Now they're doing it with Dean Ambrose. So I'm glad that this Monday night, Dean Ambrose kind of was maybe putting John Cena in his place, saying, with the segment where John Cena was in the back and Dean Ambrose comes around and when he's being interviewed. So, he's kind of letting him know, yeah, we have the same enemy, but, if you get in my way, I'll take you out too. And, he even had the fight at the end. So I enjoyed it that he's still standing on his own. He doesn't need John Cena. And I don't know why the WWE constantly feels that if they get a guy that is likable, they got to put John Cena with him, because maybe we can get more people to like John Cena. They did it with Ryback. They did it with Sheamus. it's like, come on, just let the guy have his own spotlight and allow John Cena just be in the foreground. And until they do that with these new up-and-comers, they're never going to get out of the shadow of John Cena.
Well, and the thing about that, too, is, and I totally agree with you, the funny thing about that is you and I had discussed that about potentially seeing a Hell in a Cell match at Hell in a Cell between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, perhaps maybe even for the Money in the Bank briefcase, which, whether or not you're going to have Brock Lesnar on the show, that totally could have closed the show for me. So I think that goes to show that our mindset as fans watching, it says that we can accept a main event match between those two without John Cena. We don't need John Cena in our main event match to be satisfied. But see, that's kind of the thing about John Cena right now. If Brock's contract is so where he's not on TV right now, or won't be until 2 weeks prior to the next pay-per-view, what do you do with John Cena? I mean, that's a good question. Do you just have him go, say, Ambrose, you can handle Rollins, and the night after Night of Champions, Cena had his beef with Rollins, and then you kind of move past it. Cena understands what Rollins did because Rollins has the Money in the Bank briefcase. So now he's turned into this opportunist. So Ambrose is going to finish his feud or continue his feud with Rollins, and Cena's going to go against the Authority, against Kane and Orton, maybe in like a 2-on-1 situation. I just think Ambrose and Rollins, like you said, doesn't need Cena. But it looks like that's where we are, at least right now, until whatever happens with Brock Lesnar is going to happen. But it's interesting,
and
too.
Like
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm the owner of the company, I'm the CEO, and I don't know if Brock Lesnar, my champion, is going to be at the next pay-per-view or what the contract status is after that. They signed into a limited time. It's more of a negotiating tool for him because he's basically saying, hey, I'm the champion, and, you're not going to not have the champion at the pay-per-view. So, to me, it would have been the perfect opportunity at Night of Champions to pull the trigger, even if it was for a month, and allow, one of these up-and-comers, Seth Rollins, cash the money in, the Money in the Bank in, and then feud with John Cena. It would have been a perfect opportunity. It would have been fresh. It would not have let Brock Lesnar look weak because, let's face it, I mean, he got F5, not F5, but he had an attitude adjustment, 4 or 5 times? Then he gets curb stomped. You could add a smack him in the back of the head with a briefcase, and then they pinned him, and now you got a new champion. He's cashing it in.
And it doesn't make Brock look weak, like you said, either.
Right. It doesn't make him look weak at all. Paul Heyman comes out Monday night and says, okay, I'm challenging the Authority. Your man came down. He got into Brock Lesnar's match, and Brock Lesnar, still would have won, but because of the interference, he didn't. Maybe even an injury angle or whatever. Brock Lesnar is out for a month because of concussion or something like that. Something. And then John Cena says, well, yeah, but he messed up my opportunity. Now I'm challenging you, and to make sure nobody gets in and interferes, including the Authority, because, Kane and Randy Orton would interfere. We're going to do that at Hell in a Cell. Now you got John Cena and Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. It's a new storyline. It's fresh. It gives you an opportunity to ask Brock Lesnar, what are you going to do, in the next couple of pay-per-views? Are you done? Are you here? What's going on? And that way you have your champion coming out on Monday night. And even if it's for a month or two, you still have that transition to see if it works. And like you said, Brock Lesnar doesn't look weak because he basically took a whooping. And John Cena still saves face because he's still in the championship, chasing after the title. I think they blew a perfect opportunity, to do this. And that's what aggravates me so much. It's like if I can watch a pay-per-view and call it before it's even happened, then they need to get different storyline writers in there. They need to do something different. To me, it's too A to B to C,
Well, I just want to say, with that being said, and we'll talk more about Night of Champions, but it was overall a very good pay-per-view, actually. I mean, I know it was live, and even you said watching on TV that, overall, save for what happened in the main event, the pay-per-view was good. The matches were solid, and we had 3 title changes at that pay-per-view, which was, I'd say the most surprising title change was AJ becoming the new Divas champion. Miz won back the Intercontinental Championship and then lost it the next night on Raw back to Dolph Ziggler. So luckily Dolph Ziggler has the title again, and our boys Gold Star, Gold Dust and Stardust won the tag team titles from the Usos. Russell, aside from the main event match at Night of Champions, what else match-wise stood out to you at Night of Champions?
Well, as far as match of the night, had to go to Sheamus Cesaro. I think they had a great match.
Agree.
We've seen them, when we went to the house show.
And we said that was the best match at the house show, too.
Yeah. And when they started off, it was kind of slow as far as the pace, but I think they had to make up a little bit of time. And they were fighting kind of stiff there. But, it built up. So I think, to me, that was a match of the night. I also enjoyed, of course, the Rusev, Mark Henry. He made up Mark Henry tap. I enjoyed that match.
Now, wait a second. Now, we talked about this match. Now, in the arena, being in the arena, that match was boring to me. Now, briefly explain to me why you liked that match and how that went down.
Well, you mean the Rusev match?
Yes.
Well, if you go back to like old school 80s matches, it told a story. It told a story to the 2 big men. They're not going to be doing any fancy flying around, and it's not going to be fast-paced or anything. It's going to be basically hit, kick, punch, a power move. But it told a story because Mark Henry sold the injury right off the bat. He took a big bump there against the stairs in the post, which messed up his back, and he sold it throughout the match. Sold it really well. It played well on TV as far as him not being able to pick Rusev up, and every time he would, get some offense, his back was too sore to do anything. And then Rusev went after the back and kept going after the back. So he sold that really well. It was believable, especially when they kept replaying it on television, him going into the post and to the stairs. Because usually the stairs will move, when they hit it. But how he hit it with his lower back, and it didn't budge. It was more powerful because the stairs didn't move. So like him getting thrown into a wall or something. And then Rusev just kept going after the lower back and finally made him tap out. So as far as on television, it played more of a story than probably would have a live event, because the announcers were, they were kept saying, oh man, Mark Henry's got to be hurt, let's take a look at that replay. And they kept
Which you can't hear the announcers, obviously, while you're there live. So you have the announcers feeding into the drama of the match, which is obviously serves its purpose and is very helpful to get you into the match watching it at home.
Right, and they were playing it more up. And then the next night, you get Mark Henry come out and say, I basically want my rematch. And then, not only does he get beat, but he basically gets beat unconscious, where he won't tap out. He just goes out, kind of like we said with the Stone Cold Bret Hart, where he wouldn't give up. They then take that opportunity to bring in Bo Dallas, and Bo Dallas doing his "you don't believe" and "you've let everybody down," and therefore, I'm going to have a little bit of a feud with him. But it also set up the next feud, which was the Big Show
and Rusev, yeah.
And, SmackDown, if those people don't watch SmackDown, but SmackDown, Rusev got knocked out, which that set up last night, Monday night. Here comes Big Show out, and you've got a new feud, which I think Rusev is going to face Big Show at Hell in a Cell, and I believe this will be another giant that Rusev will take down, and then finally we will get a belt placed on him, and it should be the U.S. title.
Hey, is Mark Henry going heel, pending on what happened with him and Bo and the attack on Bo Dallas after Bo beat him last night on Raw? It kind of seemed that way, right? Because the announcers were kind of condemning Henry.
Yeah, because I love JBL, because when he's on commentary, he some of the things he said, okay, you beat the poor guy down after the match. Why didn't you do that during the match?
Right.
You couldn't beat him in the ring, so you have to beat him outside the ring.
Right,
so,
and why didn't he do that to Rusev? That's what he said too,
Yeah, why couldn't you do that to Rusev? Why are you doing it now to Bo Dallas? So, they have found ways to keep the Rusev character strong. I mean, to me, by keeping him undefeated, he's getting the heat because of being the Russian. The old 80s tactics with like the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. So, he keeps the character that way.
But here
Go ahead.
Okay, I just have one question, though, about Rusev. And here's the thing. It's kind of funny, by the way. Just we've talked about this since our first podcast, the Rusev situation so much, and it really has become, like, literally the number 2 storyline in the company, anything Rusev's involved with. Okay, Mark Henry totally got destroyed by Rusev at Night of Champions. However, in his feud with Jack Swagger, the matches were so much closer. Like, Rusev was only winning on technicalities as opposed to straight up dominating Swagger, when Mark Henry is way bigger than Jack Swagger. I mean, do you think they just reached the point where they say, we want Rusev to appear more dominant, so we want him to just not have it so close as it was with Swagger in his matches?
Well, I think with the development of his character, it was back to, when he first debuted, how far can he carry on this storyline of being the anti-American, the Russian, and I think once they've seen that the crowd will, gets behind the USA chants, and he's getting that heel heat, I think they, like we were said, you could put anybody against him, and he's gonna get the big heel heat. And I think they tried that out with Swagger. They've seen that, okay, he had some good matches. He was able to carry his own. Swagger's, is a really good wrestler. But he just didn't have the real American, you go to Mark Henry, he's been in the Olympics, and it played up to the storyline where he's never beat a Russian. He's always, had to quit the Olympics because of injury, so he won't do it again. So it just played perfectly into that storyline. Right. As far as being close and everything, I like the fact that he's being dominant. I mean, he's a big guy, and if they play it right, he can be able to look strong against anyone.
Is he just like Lesnar, where he's just picking up more steam as he goes along? Like, he's just becoming... I mean, obviously in his last match with Cena, Lesnar it wasn't as close as it was at SummerSlam, but kind of the justification at SummerSlam as to why Brock dominated Lesnar, or why Brock dominated Cena, unlike he did when Cena beat him 2 years before that, is because Brock is now at 100%, and he wasn't the first time Cena faced him. So maybe that's the thinking behind Rusev is it's just like a snowball rolling down a hill. The more it rolls, the bigger it's going to get, right? The more forceful. So maybe Rusev's just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger until, you guessed it, Cena probably takes him out at WrestleMania or whatever the case is, you know?
I don't think it'll be Cena. I honestly think that if Hulk Hogan wants to have one more match, you want to talk about a real American, you bring out Hulk Hogan. You let Hulk Hogan have that one more match at WrestleMania. And with Hogan being as old as he is, he's, and the name itself would be a perfect opportunity for, to have Rusev versus Hulk Hogan. If you even have Rusev get the rub from Hulk Hogan, I could see at WrestleMania, Rusev standing there talking about, there's no one here to challenge me for the U.S. title. Picture him having the U.S. title at WrestleMania. There's no one challenging me here for the U.S. title. I beat everyone in the locker room. I challenge any American in that, to come out and challenge me. And then you get, here comes Hulk Hogan. I am a real American. And the crowd would go absolutely crazy. And, you could have Hulk Hogan and Rusev right there for the U.S. title.
By the way, which wouldn't, that wouldn't
be,
that wouldn't be too far-fetched because if you remember back to a few years ago, they let Bret Hart have the U.S. title when he took it from The Miz for a week, then he vacated it. So, putting the U.S. title on Hogan, that's possible, right?
Yeah, just even for a WrestleMania moment, if Hogan wanted to have one more match and he wanted to be on the card and they really wanted to sell tickets, especially if they got, if they don't have Undertaker wrestling this at WrestleMania, we don't know that yet. But if Hogan did say, hey, I want one more match and this will be the perfect opportunity for me to come in as a real American and, coming in there with the, with the American flag, the crowd would eat it up. I would eat it up. Because like I said, it would be, Hogan versus the Sheik or Hogan versus Slaughter, and if he wins, then the next night on Monday Night Raw, they retire the title or something, or he vacates it and they have a tournament. I don't know. They could just set something up for the WrestleMania but they would have to have Rusev, of course, be the title holder at that time. Something else that I noticed that on Night of Champions, we had the Divas match.
Yes.
Kind of shocked that, like you said, AJ became champion. She was talking for leaving, so maybe this was something that they were saying, hey, if you stay, we're going to put the championship on you again. It kind of killed the Bella story, though.
Well, that's funny because you picked Nikki Bella to win the title, and I picked Paige to retain, and Brie Bella never came into play in the match, and AJ won the title. It was totally not like what we thought, like you said. The match itself was okay, but, and I was thinking about this too, and I wanted to ask you about this. Last night when I was watching on Raw, Nikki Bella standing at the top of the stage talking to Brie, and she put her in that handicap match. Just think of the Authority coming out, how they've come out several times now and all in their suits, looking like the old corporation with Vince McMahon, and you had Triple H in China and Kane and Tori, right? And, couldn't you see Nikki Bella just strutting around with the Authority?
Yeah, and I think, last night with her basically making the match, the handicap match last night.
For the Authority.
For the Authority, and even the commentators said, because of what she did for the Authority, this is kind of her, payback,
right.
For what she did. I don't know where they're going with the storyline on that. Are they going to get a one-on-one match? They really haven't had one. Or is it go back to real life drama, which for those that do not watch Total Divas, which you should, on the Total Divas show, they were talking about, Nikki Bella and Brie Bella on the show. Brie Bella hadn't been on television for quite some time because of Daniel Bryan's injury. She had taken some time off, and they were having some financial problems. So she asked WWE to come back on television. And I think that's where you got the storyline where they have now. And, is she, as far as Brie Bella, is she on television just to keep people remembering Daniel Bryan? Because, she's not doing much. If you think about it, her character is kind of playing the same character Daniel Bryan did as far as being ganged up on and the authority trying to keep her down and such. So it's like they're doing the same storyline except it's with
Well,
Brie Bella.
Here's the thing. To not have Brie involved in that triple threat at Night of Champions says to me, why even have Nikki involved in the Divas Championship match? I get that Stephanie awarded her the match, and I get that. But to me, I would have rather seen one of two things. Either Brie versus Stephanie 2 with Nikki Bella as a special guest referee, or Brie versus Nikki with Stephanie as a special guest referee. And then let Paige and AJ do their thing, because those two can really wrestle. And I'm not saying Nikki and Brie can't wrestle, because I enjoy watching them in the ring, no problem. But, that doesn't make any sense, because I was so surprised that Brie did not get involved in that triple threat match whatsoever. And I know you were too, right? I mean, wouldn't you have rather seen just a separate match at Night of Champions outside of the Divas title match rather than Nikki in the triple threat, considering how things went?
I would have, and I think that may still develop. Because, we had 3 women wrestling events last night. You had the 2 against 1, and then you had basically the Total Divas wrestling, which was Rosa Mendez and Natalya
versus Layla,
right? And
in Summer,
so you got
that. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, Summer.
Yeah.
So there's your Total Divas.
Right.
So there, that's promoting your Total Divas. And then you still have the Brie Bella storyline, and then you also had the AJ Lee coming out. So it's like there's like 3 storylines there, to keep things going.
Which is great, and keep them separate. Keep them separate, because we don't want to see, like we talked about, that big 6-diva Total Diva tag match and trying to just cram all the divas into one segment. Let's let them have 3 different storylines. Right?
They're getting more time, and that's what I'm saying. They're getting more. If you watch the show last night, it was not just about John Cena. It was not just about the Bella Twins. It was to me it was more about Seth Rollins. I mean, and Dean Ambrose. I mean, Ambrose, I think was in maybe 5 or 6 segments.
He was the star of the show. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe they're starting to realize that, okay, we have something. To me, Dean Ambrose is the Rowdy Piper of this decade.
Yeah.
He's
fantastic.
It's crazy. I mean, how many other wrestlers could you see in the middle of the ring talking about shirts?
Right.
And if you listen back, he was thrown off on John Cena. Here's a John Cena shirt if that's what you're into.
Right.
He even made a jab at Sheamus. I'll give this shirt for $1.
Right.
So I mean, it was a pretty funny segment. Now, how many other wrestlers could you have in there that could have pulled that off? Not many. So I like the fact that they gave him. If you break down the show, he probably had an hour of storytelling between every segment.
Yeah, and he's so realistic and gritty, like you said, like Piper. And I don't know why. I just always think of Austin. If you're going to have the authority as the corporation, to me, you want Ambrose playing that stone cold, not necessarily good guy, but not a bad guy, but the fans love him. That's Ambrose, because Daniel Bryan went up against the authority, but Ambrose is is more raw, no pun intended, than Bryan, you know?
Right. He does have that stone cold.
He wrestled in jeans. I mean, not like John
Yeah.
Cena jean shorts, but like he just came off the street, you know?
Right. And he does have that challenge of the, you know, I'll face the authority, and yeah, okay, John Cena, you're in the ring with me, but you know, if you don't watch your back, I'll attack you too. I'm only here for myself.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. And if you look, they're doing the same thing with Seth Rollins. You know, being I'm with the authority, but at every opportunity I have, I will cash in for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like that they're allowing these characters to develop. It's just like, okay, just give them an opportunity. You can see that the show can be just as good without having Brock Lesnar on the show. I mean, it's proven for the last couple of weeks that you don't have to have the show be all about John Cena or Brock Lesnar.
And then we see Intercontinental title feud, and I mean, Sheamus isn't really in a feud right now, but that triple threat match for the Intercontinental title last night was exciting. I mean, that's like when you don't have a billion titles you're focusing on, and certainly not the world title in the picture right now. I mean, people are into the Intercontinental title. You know, that's good. That's a good thing because it gives prestige to it.
I like the fact that they did bring Sheamus into the mix. Or not Sheamus, I'm sorry. That they brought Cesaro into the mix.
Yeah.
Now you have Cesaro added with The Miz, and then you've got Dolph Ziggler. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. Now what is Sheamus going to be doing? And I think that's what they're going to play up to with Rusev here in the next month.
Well, here's my theory. I can totally see Sheamus and Rusev for the U.S. title. We've only been talking about it since the day before forever. I kind of want to end on this one thought for you to riff off of here briefly. Well, since, The Miz won the Intercontinental title at Night of Champions from Dolph Ziggler with a distraction by Damien Mizdow and the roll-up pulling the tights, so he cheated to win. The next night they had the rematch for the Intercontinental title. Ziggler, with the payback, rolls Miz up, holds the tights, and gets the win. Now, for those who didn't watch SmackDown, and I have to say SmackDown this past Friday was the best SmackDown I've seen in a while. You had a battle royal to determine the new number one contender for the Intercontinental title, which Cesaro won in awesome fashion. And he challenged Dolph Ziggler later that night for the title. Also, Gold Star had the rematch with the Usos for the tag titles, which they retained in. Very good SmackDown. In that match for the Intercontinental title, Cesaro versus Dolph Ziggler, Ziggler pinned Cesaro 1, 2, but right before 3, Cesaro gets his hand on the rope, and the ref didn't see it, so he counted 3. Now, whether or not Ziggler knew that, my point is Ziggler's now cheated twice, with or without his knowing the second time, but basically has skimmed away with that title now 2 weeks in a row. And I can see Cesaro, because fans love Cesaro. I think this is what they were going towards after WrestleMania, when he broke up with Swagger. Cesaro was going face, but that didn't last long. I think Cesaro's going to go face, and I think you're going to get Ziggler going heel. Now, my question to end here is, if Ziggler goes heel, are you going to be disappointed, or do you think that could be even better for him because he can make a better heel than a face?
I think that you got to look at Ziggler as this decade's Shawn Michaels. He can play either way. He don't have to be the crazy heel. You know what I mean by that? You don't have to be like full-blown heel. He's still going to get the fans that love him. And I think that his arrogance and the way he carries himself he could pull off the heel character a lot better. But he's got to do it by himself. He doesn't need to have Big E or AJ or
Ziggler, which also
have all these people
right
around him to be the heel. Allow him to be the heel. Allow him.
Right.
Maybe not to be the full-blown heel, but allow him to be that cocky guy that, I mean, if he's winning because he's cheating, that's even better.
And that's how he's won the last two matches he's had with that Intercontinental title on the line. He won the title back by cheating.
And he can, like I said, he can play either way. If they start saying, okay, we're going to have him go heel, and he's winning all of his matches because he's getting disqualified, or he's doing things that doing the pulling up of the pants, or anything to keep his title. And they could say you're doing things now that you didn't do before. Well, he could come off and say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I won cleanly.
Right.
I don't remember doing that. Or he just come off as that cocky person. Like, I would do anything to keep his title.
Maybe he's bitter. Maybe he's bitter that he was pushed down the card for so long that he'll do anything to get ahead and stay ahead this time. Which
a heel Ziggler makes sense.
It makes sense. You're right, and he wouldn't be a heel that no one liked or didn't have any redeeming qualities. He would be a cocky heel, like Shawn Michaels. Like, everyone still loved him, but he was heel. So, yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see Ziggler go heel sometime in the near future. However, we will be back with another podcast before Hell in a Cell. We'll do, I believe, one more before Hell in a Cell, and hopefully in 2 weeks we'll have a better picture of the card for Hell in a Cell, the title picture, and exactly what's going on with Ambrose and Rollins. Also, don't forget, if you're on Facebook, you want to join our Facebook group, the RKO You Didn't Know Facebook group. Post a lot of great stuff on there. You can have links to this podcast, previous podcast, future podcast on there. Free to join. Just ask to join the group, and we'll add you to the group. Russell, any final thoughts before we sign off for this episode?
Just remember that if you do not have the WWE Network, you can get the network for only
$9.99.
And there are some great matches. They are promoting the WCW Monday Night Wars, and some of the things that I enjoy watching are the specials that they have on there. One thing I want to hit on for all you gamers out there, they are releasing the 2K15, and they had a little bit of a preview of that video game on the WWE Network. And for all of you people out there that were WCW followers, Sting was actually on the panel. And one thing to keep in mind, and I called Kayvon the night that this was on to tell him because I was excited about it. They asked Sting what would his best match be, or what would be his dream match. And he said that if he could face anyone, it would be The Undertaker. So keep that in mind. That might be a WrestleMania preview, hopefully.
That would be exciting. Absolutely.
It would be exciting.
Hey, I watched that, by the way. It was good.
Yeah, the panel was great. They had Stone Cold, John Cena, Cesaro was on there.
Roman Reigns was on there.
Roman Reigns was on there.
And Stone Cold hosted it.
Stone Cold was the host. They talked about the video game. It looks like it's going to be fantastic for all you gamers out there. I know Kayvon enjoys playing that wrestling game.
Yeah.
So that's something we can look forward to. So I kind of think that maybe we might see Sting at WrestleMania in some capacity, if not in a match. So,
well, win, lose, or draw, I hope I see Elvis Presley back in the WWE 2K game world sometime in the near future. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, downloading, subscribing to our podcast. We'll see you in just a couple weeks. Enjoy your wrestling. I know we do. We're critical of it, but that's just because we love it. And I know we'll continue to watch it. All right, for Russell, this is Kayvon signing off for episode 6 of RKO You Didn't Know. We'll see you on Facebook, on our group, and take care, everybody. And we'll see you next time.